This week, my daughter brought home a note from school. Sadly, one of her classmates, an aunt of that classmate, had been tragically killed in a car accident, and there was going to be a funeral at the school. This note was a permission slip of sorts, asking whether or not my daughter and other classmates would be allowed to attend the funeral. The note asked if our child would be allowed to attend the funeral alone, with parents, or would we prefer that our child stay in the classroom supervised with other children who would not be allowed to attend the funeral. This was a conversation my husband and I had never had. My daughter has never, at the second grade level, at 7 years old, has never been to a funeral before. It's just we have been lucky enough at this point that she's never had to go to a funeral. She's never lost anyone close enough. And we've never sat down to say at what age would it be appropriate for her to attend a funeral. In this particular situation, we decided that we would prefer that she not attend the funeral as we couldn't be there with her. I definitely did not want the very first experience she had at something like this to be without my husband and I present to help guide her through something that I was certain would be quite dramatic and quite traumatic. But it brought up to me in my mind because I had no idea. My daughter was upset that she wouldn't be there to support a classmate of hers who she was certain was going to be quite upset. And at the time that I was given this permission slip, I had no idea what other parents were going to be doing. And I was curious, was my child going to be the only child that was going to be supervised in a classroom by herself while all the other children were going to the funeral in support of this child and her family who were going to the funeral? Or would my child be one of many that would be sitting in this classroom? As it turns out, there were quite a few children who were in the classroom with my daughter, and a number of the children who went to the funeral were the children who were closest to the child who lost the family member. But it did bring up in my head this conversation. How old, in your mind, is the appropriate age for a child to be introduced to a scenario like this? Or is it something that you have discussed with your spouse? Or do you think that this is just truly a case-by-case basis? And, one of the reasons this comes up in my head is because my parents allowed my younger brother to attend my grandmother's funeral when he was 5 years old. And to this day, my parents think that affected my brother in a very negative way, that he still carries with him the trauma of having attended that at such a young age. And so I think, of course, that sticks in my head as well. But I'm curious to know your opinion.